Ever put a stage claim in, money hits the account, decent whack of money, next day you pay a heap of creditors, pay suppliers, maybe if you're lucky you pay yourself, and then it's all gone and you're back to square one again? The trouble is, the next day, the next round of bills lands and you just stay on this hamster wheel of money in, money out, and you just can't seem to get ahead. So you need to hear me on this. You're not a shitty builder, you actually have a numbers problem. And most builders that I work with have a number issue. And that is the exact problem that once left me $300,000 in the red. And it nearly cost me everything. So here's where I was at. I'd just come off a really big project. Things appeared to be going really well. We just hit the $3 million revenue range, and from the outside, it looked good. If you had stopped and asked me how's business going, I probably would have told you it's going great, but inside I was absolutely dying. Dying because cash flow was a major issue for me and caused me so much stress. And here's the dangerous part. I just accepted it. I just accepted that that was just part of the industry. Everyone I'd spoken to says, oh, as a builder, you're always going to have problems. You're always going to have money coming in, money going out. It's just the way it is. And that was dangerous for me because I just accepted that maybe this is just the way it is as a builder. I kept scrambling. I kept robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I never could actually get ahead. So I just figured it was normal. This is just what running a building company looks like, because everyone said that's just the way it is. You just cop it, you move on, and the thing was, I'd learnt to run my business off feel. I never looked at the numbers. I always just viewed that as an admin job, or my accountant will tell me. Well, those lessons cost me $300,000. I'd say things to myself like, builders don't look at numbers. I don't need to worry about that. The work's coming in, things are going well. It's just part of the industry. Money's up and down. You get lumps of cash. All of a sudden you pay everyone. Next minute, you're back to square one. I just accepted it. I accepted that the numbers and everything else was somebody else's job, and certainly not mine. Builders build. Until one day I'd had enough, and I had the thought, if I was to wind up my business today, how would I end up financially? Would I be in the black or would I be in the red? And the answer absolutely floored me. So here's what I did. I said, I need to work out exactly where I sit financially. I'm going to do a current financial state on my business. So I needed to work out a few key areas. I needed to see what money was coming in. What was I owed? I'd put stage claims in. What was I owed to date? Call it 250K. I then said, what stage claims are still to come? Call that 400K. All up, we're talking $650,000 due to come into my account. I then went over the page and said, what money have I got going out? Creditors. Who do I owe money to? Debts. Tax. Cars. I then looked at what it was going to cost me to complete my current contracts. And lastly, I looked at my overheads. What was it actually going to cost me to run my business for that period? So my creditors, 300K. My debts on cars and bits and pieces, 150K. I then looked at my costs to complete the jobs, 350k. I then said, righto, what about my overheads? 150k. I came up with a number. That equaled 950k. Then did the simple maths. 650 minus 950k equals minus 300k. I was in the red. That number was killing me. I'd basically been $300,000 in the red and didn't even know it. Why didn't I know it? Because as a builder, you get lumpy cash. You get deposited a chunk of money in your account and it masks what's actually going on in the background. And up until this point, I had no idea it was actually happening until I worked it out. And it was two things that were causing it. And I could actually put a name on the $300,000, and it was a project manager that I hadn't cost into my jobs, and a head chippy who also wasn't costed into my jobs. And trust me, when you hit big numbers inside a building company, that $300,000 comes just like that. And you don't even know it because it just slowly happens. It's 50 grand now, 20 grand now, 30 grand now, bang, 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 all of a sudden $300,000. Now I've ridden and raced motocross, hence why there's a dirt bike in the background, because I love them. But one of the things that scares the shit out of most motocross riders is not when you crash, it's if you have a big one, you go over the bars and all of a sudden the bike's hunting you down. And you're just hoping that the bike is not going to land on top of you. Well, that $300,000 was like the bike hunting me down. I didn't know it was there because it kept getting masked by stage claims that would come in. 500 grand stage claim would come in. It'd just smooth it all out for a few weeks. Then all of a sudden, bang. I'd be wondering why I was having such cash flow issues. It's because the bike was hunting me down. And that's the moment that the penny dropped for me. I quickly realized that, you know what? This is not about building houses, doing renovations, serving clients to the nth degree. Whilst that's important, business is all about numbers. And up until that point, I never looked at the numbers. Why would I bother looking at the numbers? I just kept going from job to job to job to job and hoping that things were going to get better. I just kept saying, I'll take on the next one. That's going to make a huge difference to my cash flow. Everyone keeps telling me this is just the way it is as a builder. And I just accepted it and I just stayed there. And it wasn't until I made the decision that I was going to look at my numbers properly that my whole business turned around. You see, the reality is most builders are dead last inside their business when it comes to getting paid. Now, you might be drawing a wage, but as a business owner, you should be getting return like an asset because your business is absolutely an asset. Now, most builders wouldn't even think about net profits. All they're thinking about is, I just want to make $200,000 a year or $150,000 a year and I'm happy. The reality is you should get paid that as a minimum, as market rate inside your business, but because you're running a business, you're wearing all the risk, all the insurances, everything that goes with it, dealing with clients, dealing with subcontractors, writing contracts, quoting jobs, hoping that you're going to turn a profit at the end. If you get it right, your business should be generating a profit for you as the business owner. That's on top of your wage. Just accepting a wage is just not good enough. This business is way too risky to just accept a wage when you could go and get a job and earn the same money. So I made the decision, once I understood the numbers, that I was going to build my business in reverse. I was going to just reverse engineer the whole business so that it made sense and that I had clarity around the numbers. I made it a priority from that day when I looked at that terrible $300,000 debt that I was not going to stay there and that I was going to restructure my whole business. And this is what I did. I worked it backwards. And I said, this is the new model. I looked at my overheads and I said, what do I want to pay myself? What's it going to cost me to put on an admin person? What's it going to cost me for a really good foreman? What's it going to cost me in my vehicles, insurance, rent, everything, phones, subscriptions, everything. What's it cost to run my business? I came up with a number, 500K. Trouble is, most builders will understate that 500K. The reality is, that's what it costs you to run a good business. 500K in overheads. So then I did the simple maths and said, what do I do to break even? Simple. I went 500K divided by 20% margin equals $2.5 million. That's what I now needed to turn over in revenue just to break even. And the thing with that is that made me zero profit. Zero. That was just what it cost me just to open. Now, many of you guys wouldn't have even looked at what it costs you to actually open your business, but the reality is that's what it costs you to run a business, a successful business with good staff and good people working in it. I then said, okay, what do I want to earn? I worked out, what do I want to make on top of my wage that is worth it for having a business and carrying all the risk and the insurances and everything else that goes with it. And I said I wanted 200K. That's what I wanted to net after all expenses, including paying myself a wage. So I took the 500K and I said 500 plus 200K equals 700K. And then I did the maths on that and said 700K divided by 20% equals $3.5 million. I made the decision from that moment that this was my new target. 3.5 million bucks in revenue. I reverse engineered my business because I made the call and said, I'm making 200K a year for wearing all the risk. It's gonna cost me 500K to run my business. Total 700,000. I took the 7, divided it by 20% margin. Half of you guys would be lucky if you were getting, say, 10% in there. It's just not enough margin. Once you do the math, you start to look at who's my ideal client, who do I want to work for. I'm not working for those guys. I'm no longer going to be doing jobs at 15%. 20% is the benchmark. And when you look at it, if you got 500K in overheads, you must turn over 3.5 million to make $200,000 net profit. That's if you hit 20% on every single job. But the thing is, what you got to realize is that $200,000 net profit is not just, okay, we're cool now, I'm happy, I'll just leave it. The reality is that that money can go in a heartbeat, because a lot of guys don't actually understand that out of that, you're going to pay 25% company tax. If you have any bad debts, they're also coming out of that. And then there's other costs that are going to come out of that, such as the principal on your car. So if you're driving around in your beautiful Ram 1500, for example, that's coming out of net profits. Only the interest comes out of overheads inside your business. So what we want to do is build a business to a minimum 3.5 million, so we're netting 200 grand. And at 200 grand, you're not out of the woods. You're still working hard, you're still having client meetings, you're still over your site foreman, you still got to manage your admin person, and business is still quite busy on you. You can't just go, you know what, I'm going to go to Bali for 19 weeks and just chill and the business is going to run. What we need to do is grab that 200 grand and invest it again in good stuff. The next level of growth. Things like a full-time estimator, an absolute kick-ass operations manager that runs everything in the office, and making sure absolutely that you have a high-end administration person that can look after all your bookworks and basically be a PA to you, because what we need to do is get you to a point where you can work on the things that matter inside of a business. Now, working inside a business and doing $40 an hour jobs, you're actually probably losing $400 an hour. We want to get you to a point where the business runs so smoothly that you can operate in your sweet spot and start doing high value tasks. And I can tell you, at 3.5 million, hitting 20% margin is not enough. You need to strive higher than that so that you have enough revenue that generates enough profit to consume all the overheads inside your business and leave you with a really good net profit. So here's what I want you to do tonight. At the bottom of this YouTube clip, I have put a calculator for you. What I want you to do is basically work out your current financial state and see where you are. Because once you have that number in front of you, and in my case, it was 300K, you then, that's a minus, you then say, how am I going to get rid of that? And you work your ass off and you reverse engineer your business. You put structure in place, you put the right people in, you get your ideal clients, and you build a business that kills that debt, but also builds you a highly profitable business. So that number that you'll come up with, that's the truth of where you currently sit inside your business. That's your current financial state. And many of us just go from job to job to job, and we don't actually realize that the bike is hunting us down. The debt is hunting you down. It's disguised by all the lumpy stage claims, 300 grand, 500 grand, bang, all this money dumping into your account and masking what's really going on underneath. So go through the numbers when this video finishes, and I can tell you now, it's going to be the best 10 minutes that you've spent working on your business for the whole year. And if you want to see the exact trap that put me in this hole, go back to my YouTube channel and watch the video called Danger Zone. It explains why it happens, and then this video is all about how to get out of it. So know your numbers, know your margin, and protect your margin on every single job. There is no more excuses. You must protect that 20% margin at all cost. Many builders wait till the end of the project to see how they went. It's way too late. You've already lost money before it starts. You must be tracking jobs when they start and through every single stage to ensure that if there are overruns, you've got time to redirect and fix the problems, because at the end of the day, if we're not protecting margin, that 300K is coming to hunt you down just like the dirt bike when you fly over the hangars.